Now, for anyone who does not know, it's no secret that Carlos Sainz has been struggling to get a seat in F1. But luckily for him, only a few days ago, we had been notified that Carlos Sainz has signed for Williams going into the next year. So let's talk about it. So it's a 2-year deal starting in 2025, going into 2026. So he gets one more year of these regulations and then he's on to the next regulations with Williams as his team. And there's also an option to extend his contract. Now, straight off the bat, that is 100% a win for Carlos Sainz. Now, they could have easily pressured him into signing a bigger contract, maybe 4 or 5 years, if they really wanted to keep him at the team. But this keeps Carlos Sainz's options still quite wide open, in my eyes at least, as in 2025 he knows Williams aren't going to be the best, but he just pushes through, gets to grips with the team, who he's going to be working with, how it all works, and then in 2026 he gets to see if Williams got the regulations right. Then if they got it right, he can extend the contract, and if not, he can then go see what else is out there for him, as there are quite a few contracts coming to an end in 2026. And I mean, overall, this is just great for him as well, as there's just really no pressure for him to perform too well. We know Albon, his teammate, is good in that Williams, but he just can't do worse than what Sargent's been doing, and that's not hard to do, especially as we know he's such a great driver. I think just get to grips with the team, and then 2026 is where we really see if this was a good move or not. So then obviously I have to talk about the team structure with Carlos Sainz joining Williams, because it'd be quite silly not to mention that it does disrupt how Williams have been running. But this is quite uncharted territory for them for a long time, as with Sainz joining them, he is definitely not coming as the number 2 driver, he's definitely coming at least as an equal driver to Alex Albon. And it'll be the first time for Alex Albon at Williams that he will have, not to be rude to them, a great driver, as the GOAT Sargent and Latifi, yes, they do have 7 world championships between them, if you add this like really irrelevant other driver with them in this little scale of things. But in all seriousness, it will be a challenge for Williams to have 2 big drivers in their team. Of course, this is only a good thing for them. It puts them, at least in my eyes, 5th or above in the team rankings right now with what we've seen. So I'm extremely excited to see what they can do with this driver pairing. As like I said, they're not fighting for podiums, they're not fighting for wins. So right now, it's not a big issue who's number 1, who's number 2, if they're equal drivers. But it could be an issue they have to resolve later down the line. Then we need to talk about the Audi rumours, because of course the whole story this season was we knew that Sainz was leaving Ferrari. That was mentioned quite early into the season with Hamilton joining. But it was always mentioned, of course, with Audi joining with the new regulations and with his links, with his father's links to Audi. Everyone thought Sainz's best potential drive was at Audi. So this sort of, for Williams, is either a good or a bad thing. So it either means Audi didn't really give him a deal that we didn't really know of, although I'd be surprised if they didn't offer him a deal, especially Sauber, because he's such a great driver, or that he doesn't really believe in that Audi project, because it's a new team coming into F1. We haven't really seen a new team coming into F1 do that well. Haas have done all right just to stay in the sport, but since Red Bull, no one's really come in and dominated the sport, so I can see why he's not too keen on Audi. However, from a Williams perspective, this also does help them, as he's probably seen quite a few development plans from other teams, because it's not only Audi that have had interest in Sainz before. We've had Haas probably looking at Sainz. We've probably had Alpine. We've had Williams. We've had all of these smaller teams that have probably approached Sainz, and for Williams to come out on top, you could say it's all up to James Vowles getting him on board, but you could also say maybe he saw the development of the Williams going into 2026 and he liked what he saw compared to all of the other teams around him. It's a stretch, I know, and we'll only be able to know in 2026 if he's made the right call, but for me, this can only be a good sign for Williams going forward. Maybe it won't be a podium contenders, but maybe points finishing positions going into 2026, which would be huge for where they've been in the last few years. So then in this whole situation, let's talk about the winners and the losers. And of course, the winners are First off, Williams, they are one of the biggest winners of it all. Yes, only one of, not the biggest. I'll be talking about that person soon. But Williams, they now have two great drivers in their team. Carlos Sainz has been driving for Ferrari for the last few years and in a lot of occasions has beaten Leclerc. So he's a proven winner, 3 times Grand Prix winner as well. So proven winner against Leclerc, proven winner in F1, has worked for a big team. He's got a lot of experience at the front of the grid that he can bring to Williams. Which again, I sort of mentioned earlier, this is the first time Williams have employed a Grand Prix winner since we have to go back to when Felipe Massa was joining them. And again, that was sort of his retirement sort of era in F1 after leaving Ferrari. So he wasn't at his prime. Whereas you could say Sainz right now is at his best. And also, Williams get another big win on the grid lineup, as it's quite harsh to say this, but it is true. The difference between Carlos Sainz's ability compared to an inexperienced youngster who will be a rookie coming into F1, maybe doing well in F2 in that Williams seat, is tremendous. As we've seen, it hasn't really worked out for the last few rookies that have come to Williams. And of course, F2 drivers can come in and impress, but it's so much easier knowing you have someone who's proven themselves in F1 coming into your team compared to an F2 driver you don't really know what's going to happen. So I think Williams 100% have got this spot on for them at least. And then the other winner is F1 as a whole. Yes, F1 as a whole should be happy Carlos Sainz is keeping his position on the grid, because it'd be such a devastating story hearing someone with that talent being able to not find a seat in F1. It'd put everyone a little bit aback, thinking, hang on, could this happen to me down the line where I'm not a bad driver? Maybe I'm not the best, but I'm not a bad driver. Could this happen to me? So it's really good Sainz is keeping a seat in F1. And of course for me, he's probably top 10 drivers in F1 at the minute in form. So he can't be losing a seat. And he's got such an aura around him that I love him being in the sport. And it'd be such a horrible feeling knowing that he wouldn't be driving at least in 2025. And then another winner to an extent is Carlos Sainz himself. Like I said, he will be keeping a spot in F1. That is still a win overall. Yes, it's not the biggest win as he's dropping down in teams, but it's still a win for him as he keeps a job, he's keeping his money flow, and he's still in the best sport in the world. And then the final two winners of this whole situation would be the fans. Yes, Carlos Sainz has a lot of support in the F1 community.
You good, yeah? I'm good, luck. Good luck today. I want to see P3, yeah? Why P3?
And then finally, Kimi Antonelli, funnily enough, probably is the biggest winner of this whole situation, as a team Sainz wasn't heavily linked to, but apparently there were talks, was Mercedes. And Mercedes right now, yes, the team who have won 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix, showing massive pace right now sort of, without confirming it because they haven't done that yet, and they probably won't do it for a while, have brought in Kimi Antonelli, the F2 youngster who's coming up the grid, who we know they wanted at F1, but I was adamant that they weren't going to put him in the Mercedes first of all because it would be too much pressure. 100% it looks like they're going to be doing it now. So he's coming out with a Mercedes, a potential race-winning car, into his first season. Could we see a season like 2007's Lewis Hamilton? Potentially. I don't think so, because I don't think he's as good as Lewis Hamilton was when he joined McLaren in 2007. But I do think it'll be interesting to see a rookie come into a big team, as we haven't had this for a long time in F1. Then we'll quickly talk about the losers of this whole situation. And the first one is, of course, Logan Sargeant. And it does break my heart to see him not being in the sport, because I joke about him being my GOAT and all of this, but I do actually really like him as a driver. And I've seen interviews, and he's a really cool guy. It's a shame he's just not putting the performances on the track. I mean, it's just not been working out for him this season, and it was do or die this season. Considering all of the driver swaps, he had to get it right. And it sort of is a sad state for F2 drivers coming into the sport, because the last F2 driver to really work out was Yuki Tsunoda. Zhou's probably going to be losing his seat, and Sargeant definitely has, as I don't think any team will be picking him up anytime soon. And then again, even though I said he was a winner, Carlos Sainz and his fans also are losers, as like I mentioned before, as dropping down from Ferrari to Williams is by no means a massive gap. You're basically going from the top end of the grid to the back markers. With Ferrari fighting for wins and podiums this season, well, not so much at this point of the season now, but they were at the start of the season, to Williams where they're struggling to score even single points. And also, I really do believe it's a shame in a sense for Carlos Sainz, as I really full-heartedly believe, I love Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris now as that McLaren pairing. I think they're great, and they won't be going from McLaren anytime soon if McLaren keep this form up. But I really do believe if Carlos Sainz held his horses, didn't jump ship to Ferrari from McLaren, he would be reaping the rewards right now with a championship contending car, technically, even though it's been a little bit too late this season to be at least in the drivers, but constructors wise, and he'd be fighting for wins every weekend. And it's such a shame to see him now going to Williams when he could have been at that McLaren right now. And I'm so adamant that Sainz would have been kept by McLaren. And then I think the final loser of this whole situation, again to an extent, because he's also a winner, having a great teammate for once in Williams, is Alex Albon. Because of course, he's no longer the main leader of Williams. Yes, he's got seniority over Sainz, but Sainz has more experience in F1. And technically he's done, well, not technically, he has done more than Albon in F1. So it's a shame that Albon won't be the leader of the team. But overall, I think this is sort of a weak point, as I think Albon at the minute will love having a teammate that's going to push him, or only make him better. And I think they can work together to push that Williams to get points. And they can fight each other, which I think he'll love having a teammate he can fight every weekend. So, 50-50 with Albon, but I think overall he'll be more happy. But anyway, that is all I've got to say about the Carlos Sainz contract to Williams. What do you all think? Is this the right move for Sainz? Should he have waited and even potentially have stayed out a full season in 2025 to get a better drive elsewhere? As you never know what could have happened at Mercedes, Red Bull. I don't know. I think McLaren's pretty safe, but you never know in F1 what's going to happen around the corner. So put it down in the comments down below if this is a good move or not. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all later for another F1 video. Bye bye.